one thing I think is that we do degrees, we pay $9,000 a year to do them, and then you're telling me that you don't want to put your uni experience in your CV that much, right? So even if you don't have direct, okay, cool, like, you know, I haven't worked as a UX researcher yet, which is of course fine, but if you, for your dissertation, you interviewed people, if you focus on a topic for an essay that's got something to do with technology, AI, you have to even go that deep into it in terms of like, you know, engineer stuff. It could just be like, oh, like, you know, how does people's confidence in AI increase their confidence in themselves, or how does AI cause anxiety amongst, like, you know, doing certain like topics or talking about certain things because you feel that the AI system will know better than you or something like that. I don't know, but you talk about those things and then you can put them in a CV or a cover letter to show passion, to show interest, and you can even make portfolios out of the work that you've done at uni. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really good. I'm quite radical in my approach, but I think it can make you stand out.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, hope you're looking after yourselves. Yes, we're back with another episode of the Student Guide. We're back, it's 2024, new episode, new year, new us, all the fun stuff. We're back with an amazing guest speaker. He's going to be talking about an amazing topic, but as I always say, I don't want to read out their description because I won't do it justice. Instead, I'm going to hand over to the amazing guest speaker that we've got here today. And she's so amazing, I'm not even going to say her name because I think you should hear from her. So I'm going to hand over to our amazing guest speaker. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, I'm Ellise. Nice to meet you guys. Do I need to say my last name as well?
No. If you want to.
It's Eliise Gordon, just, you know, with a no Z, just E-double-I-S-E. Sorry, so extra in that way. But yes, thank you for having me. This is so nice.
No, thank you. Can we know a bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So, I was a graduate at Brunel University. I studied anthropology and did that for 4 years. It was a long 4 years. But and then after graduating, I moved to become a UX researcher. So basically, UX research it sounds like all numbers like, but I'm not a numbers person. So basically, I do product design. I study I basically study people and watch them use products, learn how to improve them over time, get their feedback. So like one thing I like to say is that if you're having a problem with a product and it's not working, it's probably not your fault, it's the actual thing. And I've been doing that for, oh my God, almost 2 years now. Wow. Okay. Am I that old? Did I graduate that long? Yeah. And then I did my master's in international public policy because I wanted to learn how to help people with the world and United Nations. It's not the way to go. And that's a bit about me, really. I do mentoring on the side to help people who are social science graduates or students learn how to get into UX research or get into a tech field, because I just feel like universities are not updated in terms of what you can do with those degrees. And I've been doing that since March, and it's been really, really good. And I also have my notebook business, but that's on a bit of a hiatus right now because I'm focusing on other things, called Teamy Stationery. And yeah, that's me.
Okay. Yeah, I think a round of applause is needed. Just dropping like all these things that you're doing just casually.
My CV.
Exactly. I do notebooks. I help students. I was just like, okay, all right.
Listen, I'm trying not to hustle so much now. I'm really relaxed. So yeah.
All right. Let's start off with the first official question we've got, which is, as you've mentioned, you've transitioned from anthropology to getting into UX research, which. You know, for a lot of people, they might not see the connection. They might be like, well, where's this going? So essentially, it would be really interesting to know, how did your background in anthropology contribute to your current role? But then this is a two-parter. So, let me ask this first. So this is the first part, and then I'll ask the second part afterwards.
That's actually a great question. Can I plug my TikTok as well?
Plug your TikTok.
You can follow me on it's Ellise.da on TikTok, because I talk about this a lot. So basically, I think one of my key things is transferable skills, right? I always loved anthropology doing it. I think I've always been really interested in how people see the world, people observe it. Anthropology is a study of humans and why we do what we do. And in terms of the transferable skills between it, to be honest, I remember just thinking to myself, I don't know what I want to do with my degree, but I know there are skills in it, because at the end of the day, everything we do in different jobs is for people. Like, you know, you have a podcast for people to listen to. If you work at Waitrose, you're serving people. Like, musicians do things for people. So like, it's, you know, it makes sense. So, and then I was working at a insurance company, and I was doing operations, and I remember I ended up talking to these UX researchers. I was like, what do you guys even do? They were like, oh, we talk to people. I said, you talk to people? You don't do numbers? I was like, wow. And then I basically recognized that a lot of places were hiring for anthropology or social science backgrounds, because when you're looking at people and how people observe the world and how people do things, you're able to understand people's mental models affect their actions, right? So I work in financial services. It's really interesting to see how people's background, how they've been raised, affects how they handle money. And then by talking to people and being like, okay, cool, so why do you struggle with kind of like, balancing your savings as well as like looking at your needs and wants and what you want to buy and whatever. And people are like, well, I really want to live in the now. That's how my parents used to do it. So I struggle to save. Or people who ridiculously save too much and then don't want to, and then, they're not living their lives. So like being able to look at those things as an anthropologist, that's really useful. And then obviously doing things like participant interviews and like doing survey design is all stuff I did in my degree. And I was able to do it here just more confidently over time. Okay. And yeah, I think if you enjoy talking to people, if you do social sciences, that really helps.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. You kind of answered it, but I guess the second part was going to be all about what advice would you give to students who are looking to pivot into different career paths post-graduation?
That's a good question. To be honest, I can go into a whole different section for that. Yeah. So I think the main thing is you're going to want to... So basically, one thing I think is that we do degrees, we pay $9,000 a year to do them, and then you're telling me that you don't want to put your uni experience in your CV that much, right? So even if you don't have direct, okay, cool, like, I haven't worked as a UX researcher yet, which is of course fine, but if for your dissertation, you interviewed people, if you focus on a topic for an essay that's got something to do with technology, AI, you have to even go that deep into it in terms of like, engineer stuff. It could just be like, how does people's confidence in AI increase their confidence in themselves? Or how does AI cause anxiety amongst like, doing certain like topics or talking about certain things because you feel that the AI system will know better than you or something like that. I don't know. But you talk about those things and then you can put them in a CV or a cover letter to show passion, to show interest. And you can even make portfolios out of the work that you've done at uni. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really good. I'm quite radical in my approach, but I think it can make you stand out. Do you know what I mean? And I think that also, if you're looking for that experience, don't forget that you can use your existing experience. If you worked as a waitress or something at a hotel or at a restaurant, I don't know why I said hotel as the first example for a waitress, but if you do that kind of thing, you can like look at how you've helped people in a situation. Like if someone had a pain point in terms of like they couldn't understand the menu or like something that wasn't readable, and then you suggested, maybe we need English translations on that menu because it's a French menu. I don't know, but you addressed something. There's always going to be transferable skills there. You just have to make it grand. You know what I mean? You've got to really like big yourself up, manifest what you want on your CV is kind of what I stand by. But yeah.
100% agree. Because that links to our mic check. So as our audience know, we have this thing called mic check where we talk about interesting facts or figures or stories relating to the theme of the question or the episode. And I think, like you mentioned, a lot of students do feel that they cannot transition to something like what you study at uni is what you are set to do for life. Yeah. And that's definitely not the case, because I know even like for myself, like my undergraduate was environmental science, my master's was in sustainability, entrepreneurship and design, and I'm currently working as a program administrator for a Black business residency program at Somerset House. So there's not really like a direct link with all three of them, but like you said, it's figuring out like what you like. And I always say, like, you won't enjoy doing something, you won't do well in something if you don't enjoy it. So if you know that you didn't enjoy your degree or like you didn't enjoy certain aspects, like don't feel like that's where you've got to limit yourself. Because you'll find out that there's other things that you do like. Like I know I hate lab work, but I love speaking to people. So for my dissertation, I knew like I was never going to do a lab work.
That's fair. You know how people have messaged me, like I think I made one like TikTok video about like, things you can do from like a biology background to get into tech and stuff like that. And people were like, I hate being in a lab. I don't want to do it. Help me. And I was like, oh my God, but we need you, don't we? Exactly. We need lab people as well. So, that's fair. That's fair.
Definitely. We're going to go on to the next question, which is all about balancing work and study. Because the title of this episode is all around the idea of like, you mentioned in your description on our website that you balanced full-time work with full-time uni.
They recommend it.
So you've managed to juggle that balance. Could you share? Actually, I think this will be another two-parter. So how did you find? I guess one is like it's kind of like a three-parter. So one is, why did you decide to do both, like full-time and full-time uni and full-time work?
Okay, so first of all, can I just look directly into the camera to make a statement? Please don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so in terms of why I did it, I just didn't want to be in education for too long after that. Like I'm thinking, like, I was at school. I did nursery at 4. Like, do you know what I mean? I've been in education every year of my life since like up until last year. So I just kind of wanted to get it over and done with, which isn't always the best thing to say. At the same time, I kind of felt to myself, like if I took the gap year, I might not come back to do it. But at the same time, I also feel like I feel like I've encouraged actively for people to take a gap year between doing an undergraduate and a graduate degree, because I think it gives you time to work out what you actually want to do. I think a lot of people end up doing a master's because they don't know what they want to do yet. That wasn't necessarily the case for me, because I thought I wanted to get into the United Nations. But I think if I'd taken a year out to actually think to myself, okay, what do I want to do? Maybe I would have done an anthropology degree instead of what I did. But at the same time, I'm glad I did the degree that I did in terms of politics, because I realized that politics just isn't for me. And I learned a lot. But yeah, I think my main decision was just that I just wanted to get it over and done with for that reason. And in terms of the balance, like, I was wary that it was going to be a lot. And people did say to me, are you going to be able to handle that? But then I also ended up going to a workplace that was really flexible with what I wanted to do. I don't want to answer like any upcoming questions. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because the next part was going to be about what are some strategies you could share that helped you to maintain this balance, and how did you handle the challenges that came with it?
Oh, I feel like, in comprehension, you have to put the question in your answer. So basically, I think the first thing prepared me is that I'd always worked during both of my degrees. So in undergraduate, I did part-time work with it, like throughout. I used to go from Brunei, from going to West London to my home Croydon to work, and I would go to like my boyfriends who went to Royal Holloway. So I was going to like 3 different locations. So I'd already, been able to do that kind of stuff. So I knew that in terms of the balance, the main thing to do was to set aside the time, of course, to study, whether I was going to be in the mornings or during the night. Now, I personally wish I had more discipline to wake up earlier and study. I did not. So yeah, I didn't do it that way. But in terms of advice, I'm not going to lie, if you're looking, especially for masters and you actually have a job, please go for like a workplace that's going to be flexible and understand that you're doing your studies. Where I initially worked before my current place of work, I was told I could do flexible working. They were like, yeah, you can do flexible working as long as you're in the office when we need you. And I was like, well, that's not flexible working. Then, like, I told you the hours I need to not be here. So I literally be in the office and be like, I have class right now. Like, I shouldn't be here. And then I was thinking, this is not sustainable. So I moved to my current place of work. And they were like, yeah, if you need Tuesday mornings off, that's fine. It's absolutely okay. And I do also do remote working. Do you know what I mean? So, and I think people should realize that you can do remote working at any level of your career. I did customer service remote working. So there's going to be something out there. And also, I don't agree that you have to be in the office like 5 days a week to do a job. Like 2 to 3 days is fine. But I think as long as you're honest and upfront about it, maybe not at the beginning of an interview stage. I told them like at the end, I was like, can you please let me do this? And they were like, yeah, it's fine. And I think also, if you're particularly looking at getting into tech, startups and scale ups are so like modern in their approach. They'll just be more open. I think they know for retention rates, so they need to be willing to, see that, okay, cool, if you need to go to like, a therapist every 2 weeks, that's fine, or every week for a certain time. So I think just find a place that's going to respect what you want to do, be disciplined in the hours that you're going to study, and then also plan ahead. Like, if you have an essay that is due like next month, don't start doing it next month, right? Start it from early, do you know what I mean? And then also have those talks with your lecturer or module leader. I told my module leaders I was working full time. They couldn't do anything to help me about it, but they understood that if I wasn't here, it's because I usually had to go to the office or something like that. So yeah, just do that as well. Try and have a good relationship with your module leaders, and just give it your best shot. Yeah. Yeah,
apologies about that.
No,
I actually didn't.
liked it.
Yeah, it worked out, I promise. I didn't press that, but the soundboard has been acting up. So I'm going to mute the sound effects so we don't have like constant chimes just throughout the whole thing.
And you can just put sparkles in my eyes or something.
But no, I definitely agree. I think that from my experience, there's definitely that level of like understanding what it means to have full-time work and full-time study is very important, because I know, like, for example, like my brother, well, actually, to be honest, like, it's now become like a family thing, because everyone in my family has, well, my brother's currently on his second master's that he's getting paid through his workplace. And my sisters both got their second master's paid by their workplace. I don't know if I'm going to do a second master's. I might just knock it.
Listen, everyone, I still did my master's, everyone's now screaming at me, PhD, I said, let me rest.
Literally, I was just like, because as soon as I brought my parents to my master's graduation, because my undergrad one was online, and they were just like, like everyone was just like, wow, like it was really like, oh, congratulations, and then because I did like, I keep plugging it, but I did the speech, so everyone was just like coming up to my parents, like, wow, he did so good, so my parents were just like, oh, like it's like you got a real community at Brunel. Do you think you want to stay for a PhD? I was like, ooh. cool. You know what? Let's see where life takes me. Because I was just like, when I was like, I did because I did my undergrad and my master's at Brunel, and I did a placement with both my master's and my undergrad. So I was at Brunel for 6 years, and it was only when like I was coming to the end, and I was just like, oh yeah, I finished my educational journey at Brunel. I was like, damn, I've been here for 6 years. If I do a PhD, I'm here for a minimum of 9, 10 years. I would.
You could have raised a child back.
Exactly. I was like, you know what? Maybe later. But yeah, I think that's so important to have workplaces that can either like fund your masters or understand the point, like the fact that you are doing like a degree while working there. And like you said, they are flexible.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because 100% I agree. There is like, I know, like the main reason why with where I work, there's usually quite a few people in the office is because essentially we're attached to a co-working space. So you need someone to manage the space and support it. Yeah. But as you mentioned, for some organizations, like everyone like working understands that there are periods when you're very busy, and there's periods where like it's like, okay, cool. If I send an email out today, that would make my day. So having a workplace that is flexible and understands that is very important.
No, most definitely. And I actually forgot to mention a key thing. I needed the money. That's also why I had to work full time, because I was like, I need to fund myself. I did get a scholarship for my master's, which was super useful as well. But I was in a position where like I needed to be able to like afford to not just survive but live. So that's a reason too. So I feel like sometimes people think that, you know, people just put themselves through that kind of hardship for no reason when people actually have a reason to. And I think that like it's easy to be like, oh, you know, you could just work part time. I wasn't in that position. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to live on campus. So I was like, I'm 23, like I need my own space. So yeah. Like I think that's I think it's possible to do, but I'm so big on mental health now. Like I'm just like, I don't say to people just do what I did because I managed to do it. I don't think it's the vibe. But can I ask a question to you?
Yeah, you can ask me a question.
Okay, cool. So I mean, if you did do it like a PhD, do you know what you were doing?
Just ask me like a hard question. I have a few ideas. So like my undergraduate dissertation, I really loved because it was all around mental health and how essentially. So it started off as just being very broad. So it was how environmental disasters or natural disasters impact people's mental health. Then I was told it was too broad, so I was like, cool, let's shrink it down. So it looked at how flooding within England impacts people's mental health. So the only like key thing for people need to remember is that this was during COVID, so I couldn't go and interview anyone, and they were just like, we don't think you'd have enough time to get ethical approval and get a good source of data. So it was data rather than like a research based one. I was looking at like how many times mental health services were used within like a period of year, breaking it down to from I think I did it from 2017 to 2020, I think. 2021. Yeah, 2017 to 2020, and it was looking at essentially how many times like mental health services were used. Then I would map out like flooding within certain areas, so to create like these digital maps that like, honestly, I don't know, like if someone asked me to do it today, I don't think I could do it
once.
But like honestly, those were just like, oh, I know, like you learn software to use at uni, you never use it again.
Yeah, literally.
But I was just like, so I mapped out how like mental health services were used, and then I spoke about like key flooding examples within those years to say like, oh, so you know there was a flooding in this part of England. Mental health services. So one caveat I will say is like it was really hard to find data for mental health, because obviously it's like a protected thing, so it's very hard to find like services, like to find even that service data, but then it was harder to even get it based on like certain regions within England, but yeah, essentially it was just looking at that. So it was looking at how flooding impacts mental health, as well as like what could be other causes. So like I had to speak about that obviously like the pandemic started in 2020, so that could have impacted the data, or I said like there were other things going on as well. So yeah, it was just looking at it like that, which was really interesting. But yeah, my master's one was I liked the topic. I didn't like working on it. I tell everyone like my master's dissertation almost made me feel like quitting my degree.
No, genuinely, same. I think, you know what's funny is, I mean, I got a merit for my master's, but you know my dissertation pulled down my grades. I'm at the end. I don't care. I said, I don't care. Just give me the degree. I don't care about the grade.
Honestly, because I was just like, because you know what it is? You do your undergraduate one, and I tell you think, because you did it in COVID, like you're more tough. You're like, masters,
Do you know what I mean? I'm just built different.
Exactly. And then it came and I was just like, okay.
It's not the same. It's not the same. And I think like that's why I tell people like I'm so sorry, but doing an undergraduate degree, doing a master's is a different breed. It's a whole different thing. Breed. And I feel like it tests your interest so much. So do you think you would have done your master's in something different, or just done your dissertation differently?
I would have done my dissertation differently because my original plan for my dissertation was actually to look at reasons why people don't recycle like their old electronics. So it was there are loads of like organizations that do like, sell us your secondhand, like sell us your stuff, we'll resell it, we'll like fix it if it's broken and we'll pay you. And I was like, this is a really cool scheme. And I was just like, it would be interesting to see like age wise, like, okay, do more younger people do this? Do people from certain backgrounds do this a bit more? So I was like, yeah, let's see this. I was also saying, wouldn't it be interesting to see like how many people would buy like secondhand stuff anyways? Because a lot of this stuff, like my laptop is secondhand, like my brother like buys a lot of secondhand, my phone is secondhand. So I was just like, it'll be interesting to see demographically as well, like if younger people feel like, it needs to be like the latest thing. Like I've said, people who buy like the latest iPhone, you are buying into a scam.
Do you know what I mean?
1,000, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm saying like buy one, but I know people who would like buy it and then buy the next iPhone.
Literally.
And I'd be like, so
it's no point. It's like the same way like you're told like don't get a car like straight off the lot because it like depreciates in value like by 10 to 15% as soon as you take it off. Like there's just no point. Like my phone, I mean, especially with like what's going on with Congo and stuff, like I'm like, I got an iPhone 12 Pro Max. It will last me until it's dying breath.
Exactly.
Like genuinely. So there's just no point. But I think it's good in terms of secondhand buying as well, because I feel like it saves you money, but I'm also like to learn to take care of things. Like I've always, sorry, I feel like I interrupted you during the talk. I think one skill that I wish I had was to fix things when they're broken, whether it's like sewing, whether it's like technologically, like in terms of computers and stuff, like it would just mean that we just would do way better, both recycling in terms of like giving things away, but also like if I could buy something and fix it up. I love seeing people's videos of doing that. I wish I was a blacksmith. That's become my new thing. I really wish I would love a vice, something that I could just like de-rust something. Oh my God, it'd be great. That's my tangent, so.
No, I completely get that, because my dad is like a tech. Like he if something's not working, or like it's like, I don't know, like USB charger's like broken, like he'll be like, cool, like just buy the thing on Amazon, I can like reassemble it. And I'm like, wow.
Imagine him with like, those like super like his glasses.
Like generally he just does it like perfectly. But yeah, I think my dissertation would have to be on one of those two. But also with the stuff that I've been doing through the podcast, it's been interesting to see a lot of stuff on like small businesses and to see like that market. So yeah, either one of those three topics, or finding like some overarching way to like link all three.
That's super interesting. My dissertation was in small businesses actually for my undergraduate degree. Like I did, nice. I looked into TikTok's. It was what's it called? Race and algorithms or something like that. So how TikTok's algorithm affects Black businesses and their ability to promote themselves, because it was a time I had my small business, my semi-stationary business for my notebooks. I remember just thinking to myself, I don't know what to do my dissertation on, and my supervisor was like, do something that's like personal to you that you do. I was like, oh my God, that's such good advice. Like, don't just do something random. So then I interviewed like 9 business owners and spoke to them their experience like doing social media marketing, whether they believed like they felt like it was the algorithms against them or the users, or if it's just like what's trending. And it was really interesting actually to understand like basically both like in a mental health sense, like how difficult it is to have something you really believe in. I feel like, invisible forces are working against you. But then also to do a lot of the research that goes behind like, how people's power to affect algorithms, how engineers with their previous biases or current biases affect them too. And yeah, it was really interesting.
Oh wow, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I might have to add that in as a question. But yes, we'll go on to the next one. I might add that in just before the end. We'll go on to the next question, which is all about entrepreneurial ventures. So as you mentioned, you have your own business that you started, See Me Stationery, which is very cool. Very cool. And you're addressing representation of women in colour. For women of colour. So we'd like to know what inspired you to start this business and how do you balance it? Well, as you mentioned before, like you've got a lot of commitments. So how do you balance doing a small business with that?
So, I think at the time when I first started it, so basically I've always been someone who has a lot of interest in basic representation. And I like to write out my thoughts, whether it's on my phone or on like notebooks, like not in terms of like in a diary way. I've always wanted to have a diary, but I could never be consistent with it. But just in terms of like, I just have random manic thoughts or like need to note things down. And I always want something that would motivate me to open up like a notebook that I could do and have those kind of things. And I was looking for like someone who looked like me. And a lot of them basically didn't exist, were American owned, or were consistently out of stock. And I thought there was something really specific in terms of like not having any Black British representation. Because I've always felt like, if I went abroad and someone found I was British and I was Black, they were like, huh? Like, do you know what I mean? Like this confusion, particularly if you go kind of further out. So I was like, okay, cool. I kind of want that for myself. It was during COVID. I had spare student loan money. I was like, how can I put this to use? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make my own if I can't do that. And then I just started doing it. And then I would have more people who'd be like, oh, like, could you have representation for like South Asian women or Muslim women or Latina women or whatever? So I made those over time. And in terms of balancing it, like, it was a lot. I would do that. But then also, not that COVID was a good thing. It helped because it meant that I could like, I didn't have to be constantly going out and doing things. I could manage it from home. I applied for this thing called what's it called now? It was like this entrepreneurial program where like I got opportunity to sell my books on Oxford Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice. So I did that for like 2 days and I sold them on there. And honestly, a lot of it was also through TikTok as well. My business wouldn't have done as well as it did if it wasn't on TikTok. And it was hard as well because I did have a lot of like racist comments on it. People would be like, someone said I'm trying to bring back segregation. And I said, how? So is that me? So do you know what I mean? And then also at the same time, it was also an opportunity to educate. I had people ask me like, can I get these notebooks or was it taking away from representation of other people? I said, absolutely not. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like, no, absolutely not. You can't get it. I mean, absolutely not. Like, it's not taking away from representation. Like, because these were things that I wanted when I was younger and I couldn't get access to. Everything had, a blonde girl with blue eyes. Do you know what I mean? Whether it was notebooks, whether it was bed covers and stuff like that. So if I could do this both for myself, for women my age, but also for younger girls, that was like an amazing thing. And in terms of balancing it, like having things like behind for programs that I would also, as I said, like set aside time to do these kind of things. But at the same time, I was like also recording content to promote like at like 2 a.m. in the morning. So it wasn't great either for that reason. But yeah, so I think it's just a matter of when you have a passion for something's important to you, you'll put it first for that reason. I've had to take a break from it at the moment just because I need to reassess like my priorities. Eventually became more sales than representation and I didn't like that. So that's when I kind of went more to like my mentoring for like my services. You can check out my Etsy for CV guides, by the way. So, yeah, because that kind of put me back in the line of helping people directly who need something rather than just being like, promoting content just because you get lost in the algorithm and stuff like that. So, yeah, did that answer the question?
That answered the question.
Oh, yeah.
I also like how you just slightly like plug it like, you can check this out.
Exactly, yeah, you need to. Just plug it in.
I have a big follow-up question to ask. So when you do start doing sales again, am I able to get a notebook?
Of course. I mean, I'm not going to lie. My friends are going to get at me. I've been saying, do you want like a female one or like a male one? Because I've been meaning to do male ones for ages and I need a focus group. So if you want to be part of that. Yeah, we'll do that. I'll send you the calendar invite.
Oh, perfect. Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, so funnily enough, we were talking about like linking, I guess, to this overall conversation about AI. Little plug. We have affiliate link with someone called Opus Clip. So if you are a content creator or you create long form content and you want to shorten it down, you want to create these cool like reels and stuff, I would recommend checking them out. If you go to our YouTube, our link tree, you can find it there. I'll put it in the description below. But essentially, you just put it into Auto Clip AI, and essentially the way that it works, it will shorten your videos to whatever you're looking for. So it can auto do it, or it can do it to less than 30 seconds, 30 seconds to a minute to a minute and a half, a minute to 3 minutes. And then essentially you can basically, on the free plan, it comes with more watermarks, but if you pay for it, it will like... add like it, so it auto transcribes what you're saying. You can edit it as well for 30 days if you pay for it, and it can add emojis. It can add B-roll footage. So when you speak on certain things, and you'll see like if you follow our page and I post any like short clips, usually I use that. But yeah, and it's Arguably, because I won't say that, and I kind of agree with what some people say about AI software. It can't say like how, like, so they have like a social media thing that's supposed to say how it basically scores your content. So it will take each of the clips and it'll say, okay, so based on what you've done, or based on like this whole video, we think this video has a 99 rating of like going viral. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case, as we've seen. Like sometimes we post stuff and some, you know, said that it's lower, but actually it's done really well, because obviously like social media is very dependent on quite a lot of things. But yeah, if you're interested in learning more, definitely check out the link in our bio and the link below. Again, that's Opus Clip. I think you get 10% off, I think, through the link. So yeah, check it out.
Cool.
But yeah, we're going to go on to the next question, which is all about advocating for equality. Now, someone who's very passionate about that, you know, you've spoken about it, well, both through your description on our website as well as on your page. You speak about, you know, representation and equal opportunities for women of colour when it comes to salary transparency, and especially, you know, funnily enough, I was doing a podcast recording yesterday, and we were talking about, you know, when jobs say like, you know, we need you to do this, you know, it's an entry-level job, but actually we need you to have like 2 pages worth of 10 years experience.
Do you know what I mean?
And it's just like, oh,
No,
okay.
where's this experience come from? Are you going to give it to me? I got
So yeah, and when it comes to mental health for graduates, because I think, as you mentioned, that there's definitely, like when it comes to mental health, there's, as a uni student, like there is something
long.
Yeah, like you like, and the funny thing, like, on a slight tangent, like I think everyone's just like, oh yeah, you know, uni's great, you'll enjoy it. But there's a lot of conversations on like, oh no, man, like sometimes you will just be like, you might not sleep, you might sleep like late for 3 nights in a row because you've got like to sort out all these assignments, and then you're working because you want to get some money in, and then you might also be like, I don't know, trying to start your own business. Literally. So you're just like, oh cool. Where is my mental health at the moment? Because I don't know where it is. So I think, first of all, it's really great that you advocate for all of these. But what changes or initiatives would you like to see implemented within workplaces and universities to address, I guess, those 3 things? So equal opportunities for women of colour, salary transparency, and mental health.
Oh, I think that's a really good question. Just when you were saying this, I was having to think of one of my mentees. Shout out to AJ. She's at Brunel right now. She was like, when she reached out to me, she was like, oh, I don't know if you remember me, but like, you told me to do anthropology at Brunel and I did it. I was like, wait, you're telling me that your future was in my hands? No. So I think that like when it comes to initiatives I'd want. So basically, in terms of salary transparency, I feel like that is both something that I would want universities to be upfront in the sense of that, you know, I know they say what you can earn when you come out of uni, but at the same time, I don't think what you can earn versus what you should earn are the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I first came out of uni, I was like, oh my God, 25k, it's a good amount, isn't it? It's not. Particularly with cost of living crisis and inflation, like it's not. So my first job, I mean, I'm very upfront about like my salary and stuff, because personally, like I know from, not saying that like I'm the biggest influencer ever, but like I know people who watch my content have been thinking of stuff like, oh my God, like, you know, how did she get here? Like it feels like impossible, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. My first job that I got, you know, I worked at John Lewis during my undergraduate years. Like, you know, I was getting paid like £8.40 an hour. Then I moved to a job working for a car insurance company. I was working in nights. I'd work from like 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that was during uni as well, literally. So I'd wake up and have to do a class like remotely, like straight after, and I'd be like, I'd literally be dead. I'd be like, what is going on? Or I'd fall asleep during the class. Yeah, I did that, and I was earning 25,000, and I moved to day shifts. But funny enough, my part-time night shifts, I was earning more than my my part-time day shifts. So I wasn't doing it full-time, my part-time day shifts, for like 20,000. And then I moved into a UX research internship position. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be on 27,000. That's so good. I was not getting paid enough for the amount of work I was doing. Like, do you know what I mean? I was doing that full-time. I feel like I was still struggling in terms of making sure that I had like enough, because I have a car, I pay my car insurance, whatever, pay for my phone bill, was moving out to pay my, like, for my own food and stuff like that, public transport, commute or whatever. It was not enough. And then I moved to my current job, where I was on 40,000, and I got a recent salary increase. So I'm on like 43,000 at the moment. And like in terms of salary transparency, like coming out of uni, you know, getting told you could be on 25,000 isn't enough. I wish that unis told people like, yes, this is what you can earn, but this is the route that you should go down to make or encourage you to move around jobs. Like, do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like in early years, like you need to get paid what you deserve. So if someone's not paying you, I remember this woman said that a job should do two things, right? Pay you a good amount and something that you learn from, right? If you're learning and you're not getting paid as much as you'd like to, then you can stay in that for a while and then move. But if you're getting paid a good amount but you're not learning, then move. Do you know what I mean? It's one or other, but neither is not going to work. So I always prioritize that. Like, at my current job, I'm learning a lot. I'm fine with my pay. So until one of those things changes, then like, but I always bring that up with the company first, give an opportunity to do it. And if they don't, then I'll look at moving on. But I feel like also with jobs, salary transparency is key. I don't love applying for jobs that don't put your salary bracket, because what the hell? Like, do you know what I mean? So
mental health is really important to us at Pick Up the Mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, MIC, and start your journey today.
Yes, I want to see that more realism, but more being realistic from like universities in terms of what's achievable. When it comes to equality and things, I think it is hard, particularly when I'm talking to like Black women in terms of advancing and doing that. I would love to see kind of more groups that are for Black women that are less corporate like. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'd want to see more in terms of like sustaining like good social life practices outside of the corporate world for Black women when it comes to kind of just like learning how to like manage internal politics at work, or if it comes to kind of like, looking after your mental health, finding hobbies, that kind of stuff. Maybe I should look at starting this. That's a good point. I'd love to see that. And I think in terms of inside from uni as well, I would like to see kind of more effort, particularly for social sciences, when it comes to finding placements. Do you know what I mean? That aren't just like, becoming a museum curator if you did history, or I don't know, like kind of just more sense of like maybe more connections with UX research practices, or being a product manager, something like that, more modern kind of routes to go down to. And I wish universities spoke about that more. One of my things that I want to do is kind of start going to universities to talk to students about the possibilities of doing that. Because it's important. Like, do you know what I mean? If I hadn't been lucky that day to talk to UX researchers, I would not be where I am now. So I feel like when people come across my content, they say that they just kind of open their eyes to what they can do. That's really important to me. Do you know what I mean? Because I saw a glass ceiling. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go from here. When I was at uni, I was like, I know I can do something good with my degree, but the options, they weren't laid out to me. So there's a really roundabout way of answering the question.
No, that was perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Because I think as well, like you mentioned, that there is definitely, when it comes to like those three areas, there is definitely like, well, obviously for a lot of areas, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I think, as you mentioned, I think one key thing I'd like to touch on is like we said about like the salary and learning, because who was it? I don't remember. Oh yeah, I was talking to my manager. Sorry, I was talking to my manager and his team, and we were talking about like, so my manager, her boyfriend works in finance, and they were just talking about like, how, because obviously like we work in the arts because we work something else, and she was saying that what she finds really interesting is that, and a lot of people spoke about it, the whole idea that a guy can apply for a job, like as a guy, I've also said this as well, I've applied for jobs that I have no like, no, I'm just passionate. Either I like the company or I'm just like, it's like, I applied for a gaming company. I don't have anything in my CV that shows that I've got experience in tech, computer science, nothing. But I was just like, you know what? I like gaming, so I was like, sick. So yeah, and I think that's something that people say that when it comes to guys, they're very like, guys are just like, oh, I can find a way to like bring that experience. I can like find, oh, you know, those transferable skills. I can be like, oh, I might not have gaming experience, but you know, I'm a content creator that does stuff on gaming. So yeah, they find a way to like bring it in. Well, when it comes to women, that sometimes it's a lot harder for them to sort of see that, oh, actually, like I should be applying for this job that I might not have the experience, or
genuinely,
I might not match the job description like completely. But guys, I've said it before, like I've applied for like everyone and anyone. Like I was applying like last year, and I was just like, oh, you know, like let's see. I was just throwing things at a wall, just like see what sticks.
No, genuinely, because like I'm gonna look back in the camera for this. Like, so because literally what you said, I think someone said, was it statistically, like, you know, those things that are statistics that you see on LinkedIn. You're like, I don't know if it's a statistic, but like whatever. That like men are more likely to apply for jobs when they have 100%. Even if they don't meet, if they meet 70% of the criteria, they'll apply. Whereas women will wait till they meet 100% of the criteria. If you meet 100% of the criteria for a job, arguably it's not stretching you, so there's no point. I'm not saying you should also get stretched for work. Like, don't work to live to work. No. Don't live to work? Yeah, don't live to work. But yeah, so there's no point, like, do you know what I mean, in doing that. I think my current job said I needed 2 to 3 years of experience. I don't have 2 to 3 years of experience. But I applied anyway, and here we are today. Like, you know, one of my friends who I'm actually meeting later today, you know, she works in risk. In insurance, and she applied for a job. I told her to tell her this. She had no right to apply for. No, but she did, and she got the job because a lot of the time, sometimes there's people like you that's good enough. Like, you know, my one of my managers, in my past, I have like a great relationship with now. Like, you know, even though they're not my manager anymore, like we're good friends, and I think a lot of the things that helped me in the interview with them is because they liked me. And then I think also a lot of the times is that I show passion when I tell people, like, you know, why I want to apply for a UX research position. I bring up anthropology because I really did love it. Like, you know, I mean, I think it's important to have a world where like I'm actively helping people when it comes to accessibility. Like, you know, that's what, like, part of what I do to make it easy for people who like vulnerable customers. You know, I'm working in financial services and I work for a company that helps people save and invest. Don't get me wrong, I know it's still to the benefit of the company as well, but it's kind of nice to do something in terms of where people can actively talk about their finances or their struggles and ask how, like, in ways that they'd like to be helped with it. Like, do you know what I mean? That's a good thing. And that relates to my passion anthropology wise. Like, you know, if you can make it an easier world for different perspectives, and that's a good thing. So I think if you can show passions in an interview, then that is as important. And I think, as you said, like, you know, you have an interest in gaming and you enjoy it, whether you have the tech experience is different. But it shows a willingness to learn. Do you know what I mean? And if someone doesn't want you for that, then that says a lot about them. Then yes, someone else might have a little bit more experience, so they go with that. But it's never a negative thing to just give it your best shot. I think even if you apply, that's a good thing. If you get rejected, then that's a learning curve. Like, do you know what I mean? I try not to see rejections as a negative thing. I just think it's okay, cool. I need to do something different. And if I get into an interview and I don't get the job, at least I got to the interview. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's important too. Sometimes also people want to just talk to you because they're like, what made you apply? Like, do you know what I mean? And you can turn things on their head like from there. So yeah.
I've got 2 funny stories to about that. So first with the like your manager, your previous manager being really supportive. So I did a placement for my undergraduate, as I mentioned, and I did it at Brunel, and it had nothing to do with my degree. It was doing like STEM outreach work with young children. So I was basically just going to be helping the team that manages that. So I don't remember this, but I think I was maybe running a bit late. Like, obviously, I didn't live on campus, so I was commuting, and they were just like, so I emailed the other person. I was like, I'm so sorry, like I'm just running a bit late. I got there, and to me, like the interview was, I thought it went okay. My manager tells a story that she had like she was just like, oh, I did interview a lot of people. Like she was just like, I'm not really finding the right candidate. It was kind of a bit tough. And she said, because people say I smile a lot. For me, I'm just like, I try to be on cloud 9 as much as possible. But she was just like, oh, literally when I saw you and you just smiled, like she was just like, I would have offered you, like if I could have, I would have offered you a job then. Because she was just like, oh, it's just the professionalism. Like you were just like very, like you seemed really interested in the role. And then she was just like, all the rest of the stuff you did, like she was like, don't worry about it. Like, so that was the fastest I've ever heard back from a job. Because on the tube back, I got a phone call and I was like, oh, hello? And she was like, oh, hi, it's me. And I was like, oh, hi. And she was like, we'd like to offer you the job. I was like, oh, cool.
Oh, that's so nice.
I was like, oh, thank you. I was just like, I was just like, I accept. I just need to check everything. But yeah, literally the fastest I ever heard back from a job. And it was only because like I was smiling before the interview. I even got into the interview.
That's so nice.
I'm not saying you have to like always be super smart. Like I'm not. There are times when genuinely I'm stressed and pulling my hair out. But it literally is, as you mentioned, it's always about like just when you go. One key thing that someone told me was like when you go into an interview, the interview doesn't start when you like get into that room with everyone.
It's in the building.
As soon as you're in the building, when you talk to the reception staff, they will ask like, "Oh, how was the person that that we brought in? Were they nice?" Like the interview starts even when you're going, like if they give you a tour of the office, it starts with how they introduce you to everyone. So yeah, never think that just because like you're going to be like rude to the reception staff or like a bit blunt, and then just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm like such a nice, outgoing," and nah, because they will ask everyone.
Literally, and the thing is, it's such a good point because I think it actually reminded me of a story. Like, you don't know what people notice in the interview. It was such a weird thing. I remember when I was my interview for my job with John Lewis, right? And bear in mind, this was during my A-level years. And my A-levels, I just did not give a damn. I was just not paying attention to studying. So I remember, like, I would be bored and learn how to like spin pens in my hand. Okay. I became really good at it. And I remember being in my interview and we were given a task to do, and I was sitting down, and I didn't realize I was doing it. I was spinning the pen in my hand, and then later on, when I got the job, one of the people who interviewed me said, yeah, like one of the things that we noticed is that you were doing the job and we were just really interested in how you were spinning the pen in your hand. And I was like, what? And they actually said to me that they were so intrigued by it, they made me stand out. And I was just thinking, oh my God, wow. And they said, yeah, because it kind of also showed that I was able to like balance doing two different things. I was like, I was just spinning a pen. But like, it's interesting the kind of things that people look at, and like whether it's something that like yes, a bit quirky, or if it's something that like, as you said, in terms of the smiling, that's like a really nice thing. If people can get a little bit of an insight into how you are personality wise, like if I'm stressed out, I think I'm a bit awkward, I can't help but crack a joke. I just go for it. Do you know what I mean? So like I feel like go into an interview as yourself. Like, do you know what I mean? Don't try and change and mask who you are, because I think that can also cause later issues. Like, do you know what I mean? If you go in and say it's like that, like I'm not a shy person, but like, that you're always like a yes person, and you can always like do the most and whatever. The time that it comes for you to say no is going to be much harder. And I think also like don't try and make yourself like, oh, like I'm a very serious person. I'm not that serious. Like, do you know what I mean? So you're going to be like, when I get the job, like, who are you? So yeah. But that's such a nice story though about the smiling. And also it's important to get to remember that it should not take you 2 months to hear back from a job. Like, do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, the same day. That's an amazing feat. My quickest one has been 2 weeks to my current job. They got back to me within my whole interview process was 2 weeks, which was super quick. But like, don't be sitting at the phone thinking 3 months, because that's too long.
That's too long.
Do you know what I mean? Too long. I almost had to call the job and be like, listen, I had an interview with you. What's going on? They were like, oh yeah, can you do the second stage interview tomorrow? I said, tomorrow? That's ridiculous. I mean, I did do it and I got the job, but like, it still was too much.
100%. And yeah, the second one about you saying about like why, like, be prepared to know like why you want to do a job. So the job that I'm currently in, I did the interview. It was an online interview, and the person just like I've told the person this story, and basically, so I did the interview. It was answering all the questions. So one of them was with the overall team manager who's managed this program since it started. The other was with one of the partners of the program. So the partner of the program, she's just like pauses, and he's just like, "I'm sorry, could we just like pause for a minute?" And I was like, "Oh gosh, like, I'm like, what's going on?" And he was just like, "I just really want to know, like, why did you apply for this job? Like, why?" And he was just like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I'm just really confused, because he said, you've got a background in like environmental science. You don't really have like a business background. And he was like, I just want you to know, like, this is solely for supporting like black owned business. We don't do stuff on sustainability, all of this. And I was just like, rah, I was not expecting this. I had all my like, you have your ideas of like, oh, if they ask you like this type of question, you know how to answer it. So you're just like, oh, like what? Literally, why are you applying? And I was like, yeah. So I think for me, I was just like, look, I'm a black business owner. I know essentially like how hard it is to get funding, look for opportunities, grow your business, and like I understand the struggle. And I've said like I've been able to, like, at the time it was like over 2 years. I've been running like Pick Up the Mic for over 2 years, and I've seen how like the importance of networking and connecting with people. And I said, I've seen how it's benefited me, and I would like to help other businesses get that same experience. So I did that. As soon as the interview ended, I, in my head, was just like, I have not gotten this job. So I was just like, cool, I'm going to start looking for other things to apply for. I got an email, and they were just like, congratulations, Jeffrey. You've been. So I had to go to a second round of interviews, and I was like, oh, cool. So that's good, but they're just trying to find out a bit more about me. So I was like, cool. So I did the second interview, and that was with actually my manager. And then I was just like, oh gosh, like hopefully surprise questions. And then I think, like you said, like maybe a week or two afterwards, they gave me a call, said they were going to offer me the job, and it all went well. But yeah, when he asked me that question, I was genuinely just like, damn, that's it. I was like, so it would have been great, but I guess we're not getting this job. But I think, as you mentioned, it's important to, even when you're applying for stuff, like think, why are you applying? Because now, like if I go for any interview, that is going to be something that I'm going to also have to be prepared to answer. Is that someone might turn around and say, oh, why are you interested in this job? Why are you applying for this company? What do you like about the company? And you can't do the generic spiel of like, oh, I just want to gain experience. Or like you have to think about on that personal level, like why really do you want to do this job? Is it because you want to, like, I mean, it sounds kind of bad, but like if you want to build your network, if you want to like connect with individuals in the company, like
I don't think that's bad though. I think if you want to, yes, it's all right. I mean, we're here to talk to people, aren't we?
Exactly. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. We're going to go on to the next one, which is all about advice for social science students, because I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of like, well, especially when it comes to placements, like as a whole, like speaking as someone did like I don't even know, like, it's weird because we're under life sciences, but I don't really get it. But like speaking as someone who did like, I guess, life sciences or environmental sciences, like the interesting thing with that is a lot of people, like you said, like they think you've got to work in a lab, you've got to be like an environmental consultant, you've got to work for the government in an environmental capacity or an organization for environmental capacity. They don't think like you can do other stuff. So like even when I did my placement, like support, like just literally going around to schools and doing like STEM workshops with them, like even the placement advisor, she was just like, oh, like if you can find a way to like link it to your degree and make sure that it makes sense, then yeah, I'm happy to sign this off because it's a good opportunity. So for social science students, what specific skills would you wait, sorry, I need to actually make sure what I'm saying is making sense. What specific skills from social science do you find yourself most, like what do you find,
what do I tend to use the most? Like
in the tech world. There we go. And how can students leverage these skills if they also want to get into tech?
It's totally fine, by the way, because I remember usually when I'm interviewing like research participants, I'll ask them a question and they'll be like, "What?" That doesn't make sense. In terms of what skills I'm leveraging, I would say my main skills is my talking to people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like people like to meet. Can I be a researcher if I don't like speaking to people? And I'm like, unfortunately not. Like, and I don't even mean that in terms of like internally in like job wise. I feel like you can be an introvert and be a UX researcher. Like I've become, I don't know if you've had this term, like an ambivert. Like, it's like a mixture of an introvert and an extrovert, in the sense of like, I can be extroverted until my social battery dies, and then I'm a complete introvert. Like, don't touch me. Like, but I would say that like, internally, like you're going to need to speak to people within the company because different people in different areas will call on you. Do you know what I mean? I've had people say to me, oh, Ellise, like, can you pull out some quotes that you've done from previous research and hand it to the marketing team? I've been on loads of my company ads. If you see a Money Box ad and it looks like me, don't listen. Anyway. It's been sent to me so many times, like, is this you? So, you have to be open to talking to people. And it doesn't have to be in the sense of like always like in a bubbly way, but just be intrigued and interested in what people have to say. Like I naturally, both in my degree but in my personal life, if I meet someone, I'm so interested to hear their background, like, like kind of like the way they see the world, their perspectives. So having a natural curiosity, which is something that like I had a lot in my degree, something that I take over. In terms of other skills, interviewing people and setting up this thing called, you'd call it like an interview script, I guess more so during your degree, but we call it a discussion guide as part of my job. So just like a set of questions, right, that you'd ask that help to guide the interview. Other things are kind of like more logistical skills, like setting up research sessions, whether it's like setting up calendar invites, consent forms. If you listen, you know about the Brio, right? It's still important, right? When you're doing those things, particularly for research purposes. But I think in terms of general social sciences, I think the ability to write like long form content is still a good skill to have, and the ability to kind of like do deep dives on things. But I would say that another skill is that you're gonna have to learn to get a lot of information and put it in layman terms. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're having to speak to someone, to Sarah in marketing or, you know, Devon in engineering, and he's got no idea why, you know, I've chosen to do participant interviews rather than a card sort, and I've got to explain that to him. And he's like, well, what the hell is a card sort? And I'm like, okay, cool, let me just break this down so you can understand it. So being able to speak to people in less academic terms. It's something that you should definitely learn. But I think the other things that I probably learned to do is definitely kind of being able to tease out the things that people don't realize are like in-depth like behaviors that they aren't even consciously aware that they're doing, which is something that I feel like you do a lot when it comes to anthropology, sociology, and people don't realize what their everyday habits are, their routines are, and why they do them. And that's super interesting too. But I think the main things are definitely talking to people. Like, that's like my entire job. Like, do you know what I mean? My entire job is just is understanding why people do what they do and being empathetic. I'm sorry, you can't do what I do if you're not an empathetic person. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you know, because a lot of times people like want to speak to people to like let go of the things that they're holding in, even if it's a complete stranger. It's so easy to do that rather than telling people like, you know, personally what you're going through. Or if you're dealing with like a product that is frustrating you and something like that, like it's nice to be able to kind of not take out those frustrations in a horrible way, but actively speak to someone rather than messaging customer service and not getting a message back. But I think like when it comes to social science students, you don't have to do exactly what I do, like in terms of UX research. As I said, there's like product management roles. You can, if you want to get into more STEM background, people like engineering, you can if you look at courses. I don't love boot camps, like, by the way. Don't pay £600 to learn a skill. I'm sorry, I don't really agree with it unless you're doing a degree. Like, I just don't feel like you need to do that. But yeah, you can do that. You can join a people team. You can become like even a business analyst. My boyfriend had his English literature degree and a music degree, and he works as a risk analyst for like a company that's like funded by NASA or something like that, or like, yeah, or has a partnership with NASA, something like that. And I'm like, you know, and I helped him in terms of like, you know, receiving whatever, but because he believed in himself, his ability to do that and whatnot, that's a lot of the things too. You have to have that kind of belief in yourself that you can take those transferable skills and do it. And like, you know, we've been speaking about passions the entire time, and that's important too. So be passionate about your interests, take those into whatever job you go into. And also when it comes to interviews, remember that an interview is for them as much as it is for you. So don't be afraid of asking questions. Like, you know, I ask people, what's your management style? Because if you're someone who believes in critical criticism rather than developmental feedback, it ain't for me. Do you know what I mean? It's not for me. So yeah, that's important to do as well. But it's like, there's a lot of different ways you can approach things. You have to go in my direction, how I did things. But yeah, I think just remembering there's always going to be something out there for you is really important to remember too.
I think one other thing to sort of add to what you were just talking about was this whole idea on figuring out like what's, like with your passions, it's like remembering that you don't need to have everything like sorted out
generally,
like at once. You will find that like over time that, you know, your passions will change, your career interests may change, and I think it's like we said, like it's remembering like that key aspect of learning. So you might not necessarily be in like the career you want to, but if you're in a job where it gives you the opportunity to connect with people, to learn, to like raise your platform almost, is still really important and it's still really valid, and it's something that shouldn't like be undersold or like kind of like just pushed at the side. So yeah, remembering that, you know, you don't need to be like an expert. You don't need to stick to what you're doing like every like for the next like 5 years. I know my brother, like he's changed roles because he's been like, actually, you know, like this is a bit more interesting. It's a bit more like encouraging. This is like where I want to go. So yeah, I'll tell you that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I think like you don't have to stay on one linear path. I think it's totally fine. Like if you you do a degree, you come away from it job wise, you go back to it job wise, you know, you start maybe with something connected to your degree and you're like, no, it's not for me. I think sometimes people will be like, oh, but I've wasted my degree. You haven't. I hate this idea that you've wasted your degree. You have not, right? Like I think even if you're not doing directly what you are doing now, like I think the key thing to remember is that sometimes even doing a degree, you learn a lot in terms of being able to manage different things. Like, 100%. Do you know what I mean? Being committed to something that you're paying for, submit things on time. Well, on time. I don't know if you are. Like, do you know what I mean? Kind of like, you know, speak to people, network with people. If you did your degree and you wouldn't really go to classes that often, that's fine as well. You don't have to do things independently. It's never a waste. Like, do you know what I mean? Had you not done your degree, you would not be where you are now. Like, exactly. Do you know what I mean? And also I say to people, don't do a degree just because you think it's going to like to get where you need to do. I've had students reach out to me thinking, so do I need to do a degree to be able to do this or that? And I'm like, honestly, if you're literally doing your degree just to get a job that you might not even like in the future, don't do it, please. Do, study anthropology because you have an interest in people. Do biology because you have an interest in life. Like, do you know what I mean? Do this, do economics because you find finance interesting. Like, don't just do it because you have to. And I know it's also difficult when you have parents pressuring you. However, they're not the ones getting into debt. You are. Do you know what I mean? So it's not worth it. And particularly, I have to say that as you said before, for a master's, like, don't do a master's 100%. Just because, like, generally think about what you want to do. So yeah, no, I agree as well.
Okay. We've come to the last question before we go on to passing the mic, where I will allow Ellise. You will be able to ask me a question. Or as many questions as you'd like. But we're going to talk about, I guess, to sum up the whole thing, mental health and graduate life. Now, being a graduate, it can be a bit demanding because in the lead up to being a graduate, you've got a dissertation and an exam, and then it's kind of like, cool, you've got that 1 to 2 month period of like, okay, have I passed or not? And then it's like, cool, you passed, cool, get your gown, get all your stuff, get the nice photos. All right, sick. Now you need to think about like what you're going to do afterwards and life as a graduate. So how do you prioritize, well, I guess as a graduate, how did you prioritize your mental health, and what advice would you give to students who, let's say, at this point of recording, we're in January, they're probably applying, if not, have already applied for graduate programs. What advice would you give to them if they're facing like any pressures around graduation?
That's such a good question. And I love how you phrase that as, how did you prioritize your mental health? I did. Do you know what? I'll answer it in one way what I did, and then also maybe what I would have done differently. Okay. So I knew that I did not want to because basically what happens is, I mean, if you experience this, you'll finish your degree on a random Wednesday evening. You're handing your dissertation and then you're done. Like, that's how it feels. And for me, I knew that I just didn't want to have that void between finishing my degree and just not knowing what I was going to do next. So I started applying for jobs like ham when I was in my last year, maybe in like September, October time. Okay. And then I say to people, it takes about 3 to 6 months to sometimes to land a job. So like don't rush that process. Like, it's okay. If you're not hearing back, it takes a while. I got my graduate job in May, and then I started that and went straight into that. Now, I was also, doing that, trying to balance my business, trying to making TikTok content as well. Then I was also applying for my master's, applying for my scholarship, doing my personal statement again. I was like, all that kind of stuff. And then I had my graduation soon, so it was a lot to manage. Now, what I think I should have done differently, maybe within that time, was kind of, as I said, I should have taken a gap year between doing my master's and my undergraduate. No regrets, but I think I should have done it for my mental health. So I'd really recommend people to do that. In terms of tips and going forth to prioritizing mental health and not feel like you're not doing anything, apply as early as you can for graduate schemes and programs. If you're struggling to get anywhere, that's okay. It does take a lot of time. There's a lot of competition, but you have to be patient with yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Things that are meant for you will come to you, and that's okay. And then also take the time to really say to yourself, okay, I just finished 3/4 years of a degree that asks a lot of me. And that's a really amazing achievement. It's not always, okay, so what now? Take the time to settle that in. If you want to travel, go travel. Don't worry about your CV. Say that you went traveling. Like, do you know what I mean? You can say that you volunteered abroad even if you didn't. Like, do you know what I mean? Something like that. You can, like, do you know what I mean? It's okay to do that. I think there's like a sweet spot between like when you finish your undergraduate degree. I think maybe like for 22, most people finish it, I want to say. 18, 19, 20. No, 23. No, 21. Oh my God, sorry. I did a 4-year course, so it's hard to see. I think you will have graduate opportunities up till the age of 24. Okay. Because I feel like that's usually when most schemes end. They usually say 18 to 24, and after 24 you're on your own. So like, don't worry about those kind of things as well. It's easier from the sooner you do it from when you graduated, but it's okay, like, if you take a bit of time to do that. Then I think in terms of balancing kind of just, going into that adult world and adult life, I think, we're in our early 20s. I remember seeing when I was like 16, someone said that being in your early 20s is like playing GTA and just like running around and not really doing anything specific. And I was like, what do you mean? And I get it. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just, there are no rules. You're just working things out. You're just working things out as you go along, and that's fine. And I think in the age of social media, like, it's so easy to compare yourself to people. I think it's why, like, I'm really upfront with the case of, like, my course and my journey, it's not going to be the same as yours. Yours is completely different, and yours will be better because it's for you. Like, do you know what I mean? Mine's good for me. So I think only now am I really prioritizing my mental health. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I try to go to bed on time. I try to make sure, like, I eat 3 meals a day. She says this. Has she eaten today? It's a different question.
It's all right. I haven't either. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I said a lie. That was it. That was it. You know, and I wish people did that from an early age, because I don't really now agree with hustle culture. I did that to kind of keep myself busy, to make myself feel like I was doing well. And I told people that I'm, like, doing that less now. People were like, no, but you got to keep going. And I'm like,
no, you don't.
I do not have to keep going. So I think, don't throw yourself into doing so many things just so you feel like you're filling in that void between your studies and whatnot, because we're in our early 20s. It's going to take some time to do things. You're not dead when you're in your 30s, by the way. I just want to make that very clear. Like, do you know what I mean? I think people be like, oh yeah, but when I'm 30, like, you've still got what?
You've still got time.
You've still got time.
You've got loads of time.
You've got 40 odd years past that, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, like, that's okay as well. So yeah, I think my main advice is, if you're looking to try and get somewhere as soon as possible, then apply early. And even in January, up applications, that's still fine too. But also, take the time to work out what you really want to do. Don't start working for JP Morgan, KPMG just because. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to my social science people, you know, there is a lot out there, but you also got to make sure that you're doing what's right for you. If you want to be a corporate baddie, then be a corporate baddie. You know, if you want to travel, then travel. That's okay as well. And then also kind of work out how you want to kind of live your life in your early 20s. Be in your early 20s. I'm only starting to appreciate that I'm living my early 20s now. I think I was so busy trying to do well and trying to be successful that I didn't really prioritize what was important to me. And I'm only now just finding out the things that I enjoy and do that. So, and make a vision board. I'm a vision board. You know, I'm a vision board like advocate. Like it's very important to me to have that, to have an idea of what you want to achieve, and then you can do that. So yeah, I think that's my advice, my tip.
Perfect. Yeah. Got nothing else to add. So on that note, we're going to go on to passing the mic. Yes, we're not physically passing the mic. Obviously, we've got one each, but I'll be swapping roles. So yes, Eliise. What would you like to ask me?
Oh, right. Actually, did I have previous submitted questions, or can I just ask, like, on the fly? I can't remember if I sent some questions in.
Just go. I don't know, so I say just go for it. Just go.
Okay, I guess my first question would be, I mean, do you have any particular perspectives on, like, hustle culture and that kind of stuff?
I kind of agree with you. I think the issue that a lot of people see nowadays is there's this whole tendency of, like, oh, I have to, like, just because someone else, like, had late nights, like, put all their salary into their business, like, I have to do that to be a business owner. So I personally think, I kind of agree with you that hustle culture, the way it is now, is not good. It's not sustainable. It's not going to, like, people will just burn out and crash, which is usually what happens. I'd say, like, one thing that someone said at an event, and the video hopefully should be coming out at some point. I don't know when videos come out, and it's pre-recorded, so it will come out. But you'll see that we did an interview at Brunel's Be Inspired 2024 event, interviewing panelists and entrepreneurs about entrepreneurism and all of those fun things. But I think one key thing to mention that you raised is that the person said at this event, you don't need to essentially, like, you can be talented in many things. You don't need to start a business with all of these talents. So you could be, I don't know, you could be really, like, great public speaker, and that could be your, like, main, like, that's what you do. But just because, you know, you like singing and you want to maybe get into the music industry, or, like, no, maybe because you like singing does not mean that you then need to become, like, a musician, or vice versa. Or you might be a really great, like, you might be big into finance and you might love photography, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to now, like, you're now you're hustling to make your photography, like, your side gig. Like, you can just do photography and just enjoy it. Now, if you get paid for it or not, like, cool, but it's not like, oh, now I need to, like, edit, like, thousands of photos. Like, no, like, not every one of your talents or skills or everything you enjoy doing, you have to try and monetize. You can just be like, I just do this, I enjoy it, I do it because I like it, and that's it. So yeah, that would be my big thing, is that, one, I feel like this whole, like, I've quit my job. I like was living like on baked beans for 3 months. I couldn't afford like loads. Like, no, I don't think that is sustainable. And especially like we said, cost of living crisis, inflation, like no. But I think it's also about just like pace things out. Like, don't need. I think everyone sort of thinks it as an entrepreneur, like you need to be in the you have to get the latest equipment. You have to have like a big audience. You have to do all these things to like get all these like brands to notice you and to bring in like big money later on. And it's just like, no, you don't. You just need to be, and I said it, I keep saying it, people keep saying it, consistent. You just need to be consistent, and people need to know that they can depend on you.
That's fair. Consistency is the thing I struggle the most with.
No, I get that.
It is hard because I feel like it's easy to kind of just be like, oh, this isn't working. So like either to give up on things, but also I think that, not everything has to be monetized. Do you remember when NFTs were the rage? Oh my God. I remember so many artists were like, leave me alone. I just want to make work. Like I have to like monetize everything. And I think that's true, because I think sometimes when you do monetize things, you can lose the passion for it very quickly. And I think also, this whole living baked beans kind of thing, it isn't possible. Like I'm not gonna lie, it was way easier for me to run Team Stationery when I had that extra income from my student loan to do that kind of stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? And then yes, I made a profit from it and stuff like that. But it was hard to sustain, and then they had the HMRC chasing me. And I was like, oh my God. And then even when I paused it and they're still chasing, I'm like, listen, I'm not like putting in a self-assessment. I ain't doing anything right now. And I think I don't know, it's interesting to hear what your perspective is on this, but like I think also people don't realize the amount of like failed businesses that people have before they have a successful one. Like, do you know what I mean? Yes. Like, I did Team Stationery. I've taken a pause from it. I'm doing my mentoring, and I'm just like kind of taking less clients on now. But if you're interested, you can also visit my link tree. But like, so I feel like, but that probably won't be my final stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? I mean, you're first or you're final. Like, it's okay to take the break. But I think my other question to you would be, in terms of consistency, like, what would be your main advice for people to be able to stay consistent with things that they want to do?
Okay. I always go for rules of 3. Cool. I'm going to count 3. 1, don't spend money on things that you cannot afford. What do I mean by that? Do not, like we were talking about it before when the camera, like we were setting things up. Like, I know currently I cannot pay a videographer to create reels and like add B-roll footage and do all these things, and I don't always have the time to do it. So for me, personally, I'm happy to use like an AI software to do it for me. Am I saying that AI, like I'm taking away a videographer's work? Possibly. Am I also saying that I don't have the funds to pay a videographer to do all of this? Yes. So I'd say don't feel like you have to like pay for stuff to like, like you see someone else doing something really great, you have to then pay to do the same thing. Like even like I said, like when it comes to like the cameras that I use, we use webcams because I'm like, I'm not going to pay like who's got 1,000 to like, generally, what cameras are? Anyway,
listen,
1,000. Damn. And literally, because I was telling my dad, I was just like, maybe for the podcast, I'm thinking of getting a new camera. And he's like, no, what we got to realize is that even if you buy like the latest camera now, within 2 to 3 years, another one will come out, which will do more than what you're currently doing. And then you'll essentially have paid £1,000 for something that within 3 or 4 years could basically, it'll still be good, it'll still do the job, but then you'll be like, but why didn't I just wait and get this camera? Because it does better.
People are iPhone 15 shuddering right now.
Exactly.
No, and that's actually, it's a good point, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I wanted that Sony mirrorless camera, because I do want to like start to do YouTube at some point, and I'm like, Ellise, make it work with your phone. Make it work with your phone. But yeah, sorry, continue.
A second one would definitely be, I think, like comparison. I think everyone compares, like no matter how much we try to not, but don't compare yourself with others. Like look back on what you've done. So I think for me, like a big example of this was like in the last year, because in the last year I was just like, there's a few things that, like a few awards that we applied for the podcast, we didn't win. Like we got to the final, we got nominated, we didn't win. I was like, this kind of sucks. But then when I was like looking at like I did like a collage of like all the stuff we'd done in 2023, and I was like, damn, like got to meet all these people, got to interview people that we never did before, and I was like, to me, it's like a big, like, to get to that stage is very good. So sometimes...
Do you have a clapping effect, by the way?
Okay, wait, so let me turn up. No, wrong one. I got it. There we go. But yeah, I'd say like with that, it's all about it's really important to just remember, like, don't compare yourself to others. Like, just focus on where you are, and you don't need to do everything that everyone else is doing. I think a really key, and actually I was going to say this before, if you're looking, like if you're interested in like marketing and you want to learn a bit of advice, I'll include the URL to it. I don't know, I think her name is Grace Andrews, but essentially the person that does, because when it comes to podcasting and people talk about entrepreneurs, the biggest one is obviously like Stephen Bartlett, Diary CEO, definitely recommend if you're interested. But his marketing, like the person who uses marketing was talking about like key tips, like literally about, like you said, like TikTok, is it like what pieces of content work well on each platform. So she was saying like with Instagram, I think she said if you post stuff on like mental health and well-being, it like the algorithm, like it does really well. If you post stuff on LinkedIn about like entrepreneurism and like mindset, even like mindfulness, like it can do well. TikTok, she said like you could post, and I've seen it myself, like you can post different things and certain things will get like a higher reach than others. But I think the key thing that she was saying in like that whole thing is that like so she says for their podcast, they release like 10 videos. They like do a paid promotion of like different thumbnails to see like what people like, and that's how they pick their thumbnails. I cannot afford to do that, and I don't intend to anytime soon, unless the big bucks come in. But she was saying like you don't, like just because we do that doesn't mean that you have to then follow our same model. So linking to the like don't spend money on things you don't necessarily need. Like don't compare yourself to others and think because someone else is like doing that. Even I'd argue like people may agree or disagree with this, but I think personally, if you're not bringing in loads of revenue, especially if you're doing like something like podcasting or vlogs and you want to interview people, like please do not pay someone to be on there. Because if you currently can't, like if paying it is going to put you, like it's not like you've got money in from the business, so you're like you're using your expenses from the business to cover it. It's your own like personal money. Don't do it, because I would say there are like a lot. Pretty much most of the people that have ever been on like all of our podcasts have been on for free. Like I see the people I've sent messages to, people I've spoken with, people I've met at events, and people are very happy to come on and talk about stuff. I reached out
to you. I was like, what's this?
So yeah, I feel like people are very like concerned about like, oh, I have to like, have big names, I have to pay people, and I'm just like, no, like just take it slow. Like don't compare yourself. You don't need to pay anyone. If someone's interested in what you're doing, they'll either come and find out about it, or you can just message them and they'll just come and speak about it. So yeah, that's my second thing. And last but not least, I'd say like, don't try and do everything with your business. So like very shortly, we pick up the mic. In our first year, we had one main podcast, which is this one, the Student Guide. We literally just called it Pick Up the Mic. And then within the second year, we had this, and then we had like loads of, we called them like additional content, additional segments, but then we like changed them to be like their own podcasts. But they were just like stuff related to like student stuff. So it was like doing games, like talking about like, doing like Never Have I Ever with the team, and like doing like fun stuff like that. So it wasn't like specifically like related to the main aim of what we're doing. Whereas now we say that we're a podcast network. So all those pieces of content that we've created, we now count them as their own individual podcasts. And we say that, hey, look, we look at the student experience collectively and we support them, students and young people, with their development, and we look at all aspects of their life. So yes, we know that academics and professionalism and personal development all play a key part in that. But we also understand that people like anime, they like gaming, they like sci-fi and fantasy, they like people just having a fun conversation. They like even we will be going back to it this year, because the person has moved closer to London, so it works out. But yes, the dating podcast will be coming back too. But like literally, like we do all these things because we know like, oh yeah, like that's not just like academics and professional development is only one aspect of your life. And if you're literally just getting thrown, like you already get thrown like, oh, you need to have like a great CV and all of this stuff a lot when it comes to being at university. Like university is telling you if you want a good placement, you need this. So we were just like, having these other things are a good way for people, if they just need a break from that, they can come and watch that. And now we're at a point where we're now doing videography, photography, and interviews at people's events. So could I have done all of this? Or like as a team, could we have done all of this when we started? No, because it was literally just three of us. And we would probably have like quit before, the two people I was doing it with probably would have quit before we even got this far. But because the team's grown, I can now expand to new things. So don't try and like force yourself to like grow your business. Like once you've got a rhythm and you've got things moving and, you know, things are working themselves, that's when I would say, like, obviously, like, think about how you can always like develop stuff. But I'd say don't feel like in the moment, you know, if just because you, you know, maybe your main revenue stream isn't bringing in loads of money, that you now have to do like something else to bring in revenue as well.
That's an interesting point, actually. The dating one, is that with Jasmine?
Yeah, that's what
love Jasmine. We're in the same class, so
Yeah.
actually, it's an interesting point as well, because I think on the whole point of growth, I think a secondary question for you apart from that is like, so basically you do my mentoring, right? Like I was at one point having like 3 to 5 clients like a week, which was great. Do you know what I mean? Which was nice. Both in terms of helping people, but also from a business sense. But it was like a lot to manage. And when people back to me, Eliise, just like hire an assistant. I was like, hire an assistant? I don't know if I'm going to have this consistent revenue coming in to hire an assistant. It would have definitely helped. And then in terms of feeling overwhelmed, like it would help. But like, so when do you think should people know like when the right time to grow is? Because that was like a fear of mine, right? That I didn't want to have an assistant and then, oh, this is slow, so I can't like pay you. It could have been part-time, but I was like, that's a lot to manage. And I don't want to lower someone's like income but all expectations. So like how do you know when the right time is?
It feels like kind of well, actually, I'll say a cop-out answer, and then I'll like give like what we did. So my cop-out answer would be like, it's very individual to you. But I'd say the big thing with it being individual to you is usually when you feel like you're doing like so much and you're just like, you wish there was like another person that could help do this stuff. I'd say that's usually like a good indication of like, you might not necessarily need a person immediately, but it's something that you can look to do. So like with the podcast, it was the 3 of us, we were interviewing people, you know, we were just like doing it like that. And then, we literally interviewed someone and like it went really well. Like as a team, I told the team like, hey, look, like this person, like we did the podcast episode with them and I was like, it went really well. Like I was just like, it seemed like we as a team, we were just like bouncing off each other. Like the conversation was really good. I really liked it. And I was just like, hey, well, how do you feel about this person like joining the team? Because I feel like it would be kind of cool. Like everyone seemed to like them and they were just like, yeah, this sounds like really cool. Like if she's happy to do it, let's do it. So we messaged her and we said like, hey, look, if you're interested in joining the team, we'd love to have you. And she did. And then so some of the other members of the team, so like maybe my brother and like our friend Morgan, who they have the sci-fi and fantasy podcast, The Two Maces, that all came about because literally like Morgan was on the podcast and he was like, oh wow, I really like what you're doing. So he was on this podcast actually, and he was like, oh, I really like what you're doing. It's really cool. Like, I'd love to like get a bit involved more. And I was like, hey, like, I know you're big into Game of Thrones. My brother's into Game of Thrones. Like, do you want to do a podcast together? And then for me, I love it because I'm not involved in that podcast at all. I don't pick the topics. I don't research it. They just come up with it and I just edit it and it makes my life super easy. And then, some of the other people we have on the team, so like Tatiana, our like comms and partnerships officer, like she, again, was just on the podcast and I just messaged and said like, hey, look, like I would love to have you on the team. You've got a lot of like creative ideas of like how you think the podcast could develop and go. She said yes. And then, last but not least, we've got like 2 interns. So this actually I guess like you were saying before about like people having that connection and keeping those connections with people even after you leave a job. What's really interesting is my old manager, when I was doing my undergrad placement, she had a student with her who was a film student who, I didn't know this, but apparently Elise Brunel, film, TV and I think that's the course, but at least the film part is definitely there. But that course, they do for their final year students, they have to do 50 hours of filming for like someone. So it can either be for an organization, it can either be to like support a friend, it can either be for like a side project, it can be for the university, but they have to do 50 hours from September till basically around March. And my old manager was just like, she just got in touch and said like, oh, hey, like I know you do the podcast. I've got actually like a student on the team that used to, you know, they need to get the hours up. Are you happy to support them? And I was like, hey, yeah, sure. Like, let's bring them on. Let's see how things go. And then, that went really well. So she brought a friend and both of them did really great. So I then messaged the lecturer and I was just like, hey, look, I know you've got this scheme. I would love to work with you to get this running again for this current academic year that we're now in. And he was just like, yeah, no, we both of them gave really good feedback about it. So I'd say it's very dependent on you, but I'd say like look for opportunities because even like you'll find that a lot of people even like on LinkedIn, especially like if they're a uni student, you just need to be careful because obviously like you don't want to get sued and then told you're doing a slave labor. But a lot of like uni students will want to like do stuff that like, they might not necessarily care about like a salary, but they just want the experience or they want the network that you have. So like even like that person, the two people that helped me out last year for the videography, like I told them, hey, look, like I will, if you need a reference, I'll be a reference. If I know people who are doing like who need videography services and it's possibly like paid, I will share your details with them. I was like, I can get into like I can connect you with people and things like that. So so for me, I've even told like people on the team, like I don't like if you leave the team, like it's not an issue, but I've said like all I just ask you is just like get involved as much as you want. So when you do leave, you've got that experience and knowledge with you. So I'd say when it comes to it, you just gotta like think like you just gotta get to a point where you're comfortable and you know that you can't do everything and you probably do need someone that can support you. I will say that it's not always easy. It's hard to find good people to help you or reliable people, but it's always about like just knowing like sometimes you just got to do a vibe check. So like like I said, the manager when I was smiling, like she just said like sometimes she's like the people that she's said that she wants to work with, she said it's usually because like she just feels that, like, you know, we can get along with similar people, or she's just like, oh, I can see how we could work together really well. Sometimes it's literally just that. So picking like someone to join your team is very hard, especially like if you do like an open call and you're just like, hey, look, like I'm just looking for someone who, you know, wants to gain experience and meet new people and build up their network. You'll get a lot of people, especially if you post it on LinkedIn, just being like, oh wow, that sounds really cool. Like I'd love to do this. But then the easiest way to know it is just like sometimes you got to do, whether it's jump on a call, meet them in person, to just like see how things can go. Yeah,
no, that's fair enough. Yeah, and I think because I'm thinking about the whole reliability thing as well. Like, I mean, at one point, because I was managing too many things. So, I mean, obviously, because I reached out to you like last year to do this, but I was doing so much stuff. So I was like, Ellise, stop trying to find new opportunities or do things when you've got so much going on. And I think it can also kind of make it hard because I think there'll be people that I've either wanted to work with or stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, but can I really give myself to this person fully in terms of what I want to help them with based on what I'm doing now? So I think this year I'm also taking to think of like, okay, cool. So because I want to work with good people and I want good people to work with me, I also need to take on less stuff so I can give myself fully. So thank you for being patient with me. Where I came on here.
No, thank you.
No, it's all good. And then I guess my other question would be, I guess people who are looking to start like podcasts or want to do this kind of things, what would be your main tips? Because you've got your lovely setup here, I must say. What would be your main tips for them?
I'll do, like I said, I like doing things in three, so I'll do it again. So one is just start. So the audio distributor that we use is called Buzzsprout, and the way that so essentially you just like upload it and they put it on like all audio software platforms. Oh, cool. Also realised I just waved my hand in front of the camera, but
don't look at me.
But they basically like put it out there, but they do a lot of stuff with like, oh, if you're interested in podcasting, like here's some advice and like here's equipment to use. But one key thing that they said is that a lot of people forget when it comes to like podcasting, they feel like, oh, I have to like, they get obsessed with the numbers. So they said I know, like I saw a funny thing. I think they're called Mememza, which is like a...
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. They did like a post of like what should be left in 2023 and they were just like podcasts. And I was just like, I kind of get it because everyone like and their uncle starts like, oh, I've got a podcast. We're now talking about... So yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
That's fine.
But I think one key thing that Buzzsprout was saying is they said a lot of people start podcasts, but not a lot of people get past their second episode because they get so obsessed with like, oh, like not a lot of people have watched my first episode, so I need to like now either pay to promote it or like get someone on Fiverr to promote it, or like I'm now gonna wait until the numbers like jump really high and then I'm gonna continue, or they get like obsessed with, oh, someone did like a similar episode and they've got a bigger audience than me, so it's not working. Yeah. So they're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna pause it, I'm gonna quit it, or
You've got to run your own race.
Exactly. So don't feel like you have to get obsessed with the numbers. Like I've told people, like when we started, like we didn't have a YouTube channel when we started. We were literally just doing audio over Zoom, and like we were just like, cool, people are listening, people are liking it, and it was only because like, and I guess that kind of links to the second thing is like always be up for trying new things. So like one of the people that I started who was helping with the podcast when it started, Samuel, he was just like, why don't we try YouTube? And I was like, I don't know, I don't know much about YouTube, I don't know about the space, and he was just like, one key thing that kind of stuck was he was just like, oh well, with YouTube, like if people like it and it does well, it will just grow. Yeah. And he was just like, it's timeless content. It's on there. People use YouTube anyways. So he was just like, if people really like it, they like the channel will just naturally like build an audience. And I was like, I never thought about it like that. So we did it to the second season of this podcast, and it worked really well. Like people were watching it, people were still listening. It really it was doing really well. So we were just like, cool. We're gonna re-upload all our episodes from our first season on YouTube and see like how it went. Some of them did really well. There was one like this threw us off. We all don't understand why this happened. We got like 5,000 views on our revision tips episode. We have no idea to this day why that happened. We didn't like pay anything. We literally like released all our season 1 episodes on the same day, and we were just like, okay, cool, let's just see how this goes.
What time of year did you upload it?
You know, we didn't do it. We did it, I think, because it was. I think it was. I don't remember. It must have been around after exams had finished. So I think it was around like maybe results day.
People were like, what should I have done differently?
But yeah, it just like blew up, and we were just like, oh, cool, 5,000 views, not bad. So be open to trying new things. So whether it's like using new software, whether it's like changing things. So even like with this podcast, like every season we try to add something new to it that wasn't there before. So so like we've got the different sections like mic check, empty of the month, all of this. This has been added on like each time we do it. But yeah, we do like we say like always add stuff to it. So that would be my second thing. Just try new things, and then finally just go like not even just go for it. I think like just be open to like people who you can like bring on to like being on the like with your journey of like podcasting or like content creation, because like there are people like there's people that I've brought on, like we've met on the podcast and like we're really good friends now. And it was literally just like, because I was like, I'm gonna send a message like, hey, look, if you want to be on, like come on the podcast, and if not, like it's cool, but I just think you'd be a really good fit. So sometimes people feel like, oh no, like I need to like, you know, be like, I'm not saying like I send like a very casual message like, hey, like if you're like come on the podcast, like, but still be professional, I guess is what I'm saying. But don't be surprised of like where those connections can go, because you never know, like you might meet like your co-founder, a really great friend, you might meet like a potential investor. And that's literally just because you'll be like messaging around saying like, hey, look, like, do you want to be on this thing that I do? So yeah, never be afraid. And I'm going to like add one last thing to like undersell all of it with linking it to like just get started is like, I need to overcome this myself. But don't be so lost in like, it needs to be perfect or it needs to be great.
Yeah. It's a problem for me.
No, honestly, I get that. Because even like sometimes with my sister, like I'll upload like maybe a YouTube short that I've just recorded somewhere, and she'll be like, "Oh no, but you know you got to think about the angles." But I think for me, I'm just like the biggest like if I get lost into thinking about like I need to organize like how things can work. Like even people will be surprised. The show reel that's on our YouTube page, that is only there because I use it for a funding competition that Brunel will do. And essentially that funding competition, that video, or the like parts of that video were literally recorded over my lunch break. Because basically what happened was it came to, so I think it was like maybe a week before the deadline. And I was like, damn, I haven't actually thought how I'm going to like organize this video. So I like messaged the person who was like helping out with videography for the team. And I was like, hey, could you just, manage, like, would you be cool to like meet up with me at this time, and can we just like blitz through filming stuff? And then where we recorded, like it was where my like old manager worked, so her placement student was there, and I was like, hey, look, how do you feel about being in this video? Because I was just like, it'd be really cool if I see someone else like rather than just me. And he was just like, yeah, sick. So literally like we that video was like done within like 1 hour. I had to literally like try and eat while doing this, and then rush back to work so I wasn't going to be late. But yeah, literally, it's just sometimes you've just got to like do things with what you've got and not get so focused on like it needs to be perfect. It needs to be like the best thing ever. Yeah. Just be like, I'm going to just put it out there and see what happens.
No, it makes sense. I mean, my thing is perfection as well, because I don't mean to call myself out, but I'm one of those people as well. But like, let me do a podcast. I started so long. I was like, because my thing is like, I have a recorded footage and I'm like, I need to edit it. And it's also finding time to sit down and edit stuff as well that I find super hard, because I'm like, I already do a lot. So trying to find time to sit down and edit things. And the thing is, I actually enjoy editing stuff, particularly if I do it in like a videographer type way. It's actually quite enjoyable for me. But yeah, trying to find the time to do that. And then also, in terms of perfection, I think as much as I think TikTok is like a terrible beast, it really is. At the same time though, it does show that sometimes you can think you made the most perfect video and it would not do that well. It would
not do well.
And then you just put the random, I remember one of my semi stationary videos got like 150,000 likes or something like that. And it was one that I just made super quick before I was going to go out. I made it and I didn't look at my phone for a few hours and I saw, what? I was like, I remember seeing it and I had like orders coming through my phone and I was like, wait, what is going on? I didn't realize it was a video, but I didn't think about it. I just made it and did it there. And I think I know different platforms can be different. I think Instagram is a little bit more, like that kind of perfect look a little bit, which is why I don't really love Instagram. But at the same time, I think just starting is such a good point, because I need to just start YouTube. I mean, after our conversation today, I'm like, Ellise, don't. Yeah, I'm like, no, wait. I'm like, Ellise, don't buy the camera. Don't buy it. It's like 600 quid. Don't do it. Just kind of start somewhere. Because I think if you start small, that means you'll be proud regardless. Like, do you know what I mean? And yeah, I think what your dad's advice is good. Like 5 years, that camera's gonna be somewhere random in like a landfill or something. Yeah, it's a good point. Very much so.
I'd even say so like the webcam that's up on you, like people get surprised that I tell them that it can literally do like, so it records in 4K. You can use it can work with any like video software that can like have a camera, but it also has its own camera that the company runs. It can record in 4K. It won't work because we're not recording through the software that the camera works on. But like literally, if you put your hand up like as a 5, it can auto track you. So the camera's got like AI, so it can like auto track you around the room. So like if people were like, I don't know, doing like a product video and they were like walking up and down and like showing stuff, like the camera will track you. You can it's never worked, but you can like tell it to like pinch to tell it to zoom in.
What company is it?
This is so it's called I think it's OBS Spot, but
OBS Spot sponsor, pick up the mic.
So, yeah, please. But literally like that was $240, I think.
Right.
So yeah, cheaper than like a camera, but it can. All I need is a laptop to plug it in, and it will literally like do it.
I got a photography camera, but it's not like me. It can't record for as long as like obviously like a camera that's made to record. I'm like, Eliise, you could just try and use that, can you?
No, I get what you mean. But you know what? I've got this. Like, I've got a photography camera as well. Yeah. So I only learned apparently it can record like up to like literally like this, only up to 29 minutes and 59 seconds. But then if your video file is bigger than 4 gigabytes, it will just shut the camera off.
Oh.
So literally like when we started to use like videos, and I was like, I've got my own camera, let me just do it. Literally, I was recording and like 12 minutes into the video, boom. Like,
what camera was it?
Canon.
I have a Canon as well.
Is it the 4000? Like
I have 2000. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So what's this about if it's too big?
So literally that's the reason why we're not using it today. If you record the file and it's like too big, it will then like just shut off because there's something built into the camera that it just can't record files that are bigger than 4 gigabytes. Wow. So yeah, literally like it shuts down. But that's what I tell people, like if you're a uni student, so like a Brunel, you have to like find a way to convince people. But if you're a Brunel, you can actually like rent out. So if you're under the college of I forgot what the college is. It's the one that film and production and all that stuff is under. But essentially you can like pay for that to be you can pay for that to be included within, you can use the thing for free.
What time to start a film?
So literally like you can use the camera equipment. So yeah, I'd say that's my big advice when it comes to like recording stuff.
Yeah, that's a good advice, and I will take it on and not buy an expensive.
No. But yeah, we've come to the MC of the month, organisation, individual that's related to what we're talking about. And I think linking to the idea of content creation and like getting into YouTube, I could not talk about anyone other than this organisation called vidIQ. So vidIQ, they're a YouTube channel. They do a lot of stuff to support like small channels that are looking to grow. They have a lot of like short form content where it's looking at saying like, how do you start a YouTube channel in 2024? How do you like find guests? How do you like make sure your videos get maximized and monetized? How do you grow your channel? They do like live reviews of your channels as well. So they do like a YouTube live where if you're interested, you can like join the live, submit the link to your channel, and then they'll give you advice and feedback on like how your channel can overall like just grow. But yeah, I definitely recommend them to like check them out. They're a really cool organization and resource. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more, definitely vidIQ is the way to go. But yeah, before we wrap things up and do the outro, Ellise, we have a segment called Takeaway.
Okay.
Which is not us being sponsored by Deliveroo or a takeaway app just yet. Could happen. But instead, it's about one key message that summarizes everything that we've spoken about. So based on all our conversations about mental health, the importance of representation, balancing work and uni, content creation, what would be your one piece of advice to our audience?
My one piece of advice is run your own race, guys. Just because like you see someone else doing something does not mean it's a thing for you. It can be, it could be, but like it doesn't have to be. Do you know what I mean? And I think like when it comes to mental health, honestly, I think if you get your mental health right first, everything else will fall in place. I was doing it the opposite way, and I'm not back like where I started or anything, but it's more like in the sense of like now I've had to stop, reflect, and then move forward. Whereas maybe if I had just stopped and then, thought about what I want to do, and then I'd be more consistent in that way. And I think like things like consistency, things like working hard come from when you have both a care for yourself and for what you want to do. So as we said, passion is super important as well. So yeah, if you want more help from me, I've plugged myself throughout. It's Ellise.da, same with TikTok, and offer mentoring, so reach out. Yeah.
But yeah, we've now come to the end of the episode. You've already sort of like done it, because usually I'll just end by saying like, if you want to add your links, like if you want to plug yourself and tell people where to find you, they can. But she's done it already.
Sorry. I mean Etsy too. But
But yeah, please, I do recommend check out Elise's pages. She does amazing, great content, and she's very supportive. She's gonna even support us on the podcast with Pick Up the Mic. So yeah, we'll get
ready for some research.
Yeah. But yeah, we've now come to the end of the episode. Thank you very much to our amazing audience for coming to another episode and for watching this. If you like this, a like, comment, subscribe is always appreciated. Please do make sure, if you want to support us, you check out our Patreon and sell on YouTube channel membership. If you are interested in receiving some free perks, please do make sure you subscribe up to that, because we're going to be you'll be seeing me in some new merch that we're looking to trialing soon. And finally, if you're interested in receiving some cool stuff, some other stuffs like these outros, like it's been a long day. But yeah, if you're interested in learning more about our other podcasts that are around student development and all of these things, then please do check out this channel. If you're interested in learning more about sci-fi and fantasy, check out The Two Maesters. If you're interested in anime, check out Sensitive of Anime channel. And finally, if you're interested in gaming, check out the Pick Up the Controllers channel. But yeah, that's the end of things from us here. Hope you have a wonderful day. We're going to close the student guide and we will open it with a new guest and a new topic next time. So we'll see you. That's bye from us here, and have a wonderful day.